I'm George from NBA Hockey.
I'm Jeff from NHL Analysis.
I'm Jack from Puck Analytics.
And I am HBF Analytics on Twitter.
Uh, we're actually we've run out of gimmicks on this podcast, so we've resorted to the guest host gimmick. 3 episodes in, but yeah, we're happy to have HBF on the podcast with us. You guys probably know him from Twitter and formerly Instagram, and he'll be kind of just hanging out today, keeping us in check.
Sir.
We had to bring in a smart person to cover up our idiocies.
Yeah, we rambled on too much in the first 2 episodes.
Don't beat yourself up, Jeffrey. The Predators are already doing badly enough.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It's fair enough. But I guess we can jump into the news that broke because the NHL hates us. So this happened like the day we uploaded our last episode, and that was the firing of Claude Julien in Montreal after losing to the Ottawa Senators, who in the past 2 weeks have dismantled three franchises in that division, and yet are still the worst team in the NHL. So how do we feel about the Claude Julien firing first, I guess, is before we get into the broader issues with Montreal? Where are we at? Just on Julien himself.
I certainly didn't see it coming. There was stuff going wrong with Montreal. Anybody that watched them for even 5 minutes could tell you that, but I thought there'd be at least a little bit more time to trying to look at things and get things sorted. But, the NHL during a random season, just in terms of there's a whole, pandemic going around and stuff like that. So, expect the unexpected, I guess.
I mean, yeah, normally there's a longer leash for coaches like that. I mean, if you look at Toronto and how they handled Babcock, like they gave him a solid year after Lamoriello, who was perceived to be like his preferred GM after he left. And in retrospect, they probably should have fired him after the April 2019 loss to Boston. So I feel like it was just one bad series here for Montreal, or one bad mini series, 2 games against Ottawa, and that spelled the end for Julien. I think it caught us all off guard. Hockey Stats Twitter was quick to point out that coach firings and goalie slumps are way more highly correlated than they should be. Price has been struggling. I think a lot of people are starting to see that now. And I mean, if you've been following along on Twitter, you saw that I put out the coaching charts. It's a coaching evaluation tool based on what forward lines and defense pairings he likes to rely on most, and sort of like a microstat for coaches, I guess, in that regard. And I guess in terms of line reliance and deployment, Julien was pretty average. I mean, you could argue slightly below. I mean, the one area where he stood out positively was his impact on his defense pair's ability to drive offense, and the top pair for Montreal, Sherratt and Weber, they've been doing that pretty well all year. They experimented briefly with the Romanov and Mete pairing, and they were not doing well with that. So Julien, sort of cut that trial run short after 50 minutes. So, I mean, props to him for that. He grades out slightly below average in terms of his deployment of forward lines and their impact on being able to suppress or prevent quality chances against. He didn't grade out too well there. He didn't really stray that far from average, but the big thing was there was one line that he played, and as of the weekend, 49 minutes total, Toffoli, Kotkaniemi, Armia, and they have Montreal's best expected goals against per 60 on a line level, and they've only played 49 minutes. So Julien was sort of deducted for that. But aside from that, I mean, pretty average. Montreal's system we know they have great play driving numbers, but they rely a lot on lots of point shots, lots of deflections. So, like, I guess you could argue that they're sort of cheating the expected goals code, but overall, I mean, still the best. I mean, Sportsnet, Elliot Friedman was saying this a lot. Best goal share at 5-on-5 in the league right now. So pretty short leash. I think you could blame a lot of the reasons that Bergevin said Julien got fired on Carey Price, but Ducharme's aboard now, and they've got some ground to make up in that division for sure.
Jack, you want to go?
Jack, is there anything you want to add?
No, you got it.
Yeah, I think especially for the Canadians, like their 5-on-5 numbers are still great, although they've taken a slight dip in the last couple weeks. But they've been a great 5-on-5 team basically since Julien stepped in, and it was the same thing in Boston too. The biggest issue for this team really is the special teams as a whole, and the fact this team doesn't have anybody who can score. And that's been the issue in Montreal for years. And now you can win with a team that is just like can roll four lines. I mean, Vegas did it, but Vegas also got great goaltending from Fleury, and they got William Karlsson to pop in 40 goals, and that is something that Montreal's not getting from in either department. And if you're not going to have a superstar in this team, and now Marc Bergevin's tried, whether you give him credit for the Sebastian Aho offer sheet or not, he did somewhat try to bring in somebody. And from all the reports, they're somewhat in on Jack Eichel as well. But there's just not enough high-end talent on this team, and when you can't succeed on special teams, you're not going to do particularly well. And although their play driving on 5-on-5 is fine, they still don't have that go-to scorer that the elite teams in the NHL do. And when you're not getting good goaltending, and you have $15 million tied up in both your goaltenders, it's not going to go very well. And yeah, I do blame a lot of the Claude Julien firing on Carey Price, although this team did lose 8 games in a row twice last year. So you can argue that he probably should have been fired after that. So I don't know. Like, there's too many issues with this roster, in my opinion, and people looked at them as a cup contender after the bubble play, because Carey Price had 5 great games 6 months after the season ended. And then they went out in the offseason, added a second line forward, a third line forward, and like a 6th defenseman. And everybody thought they were going to win the Stanley Cup. So I think people overrated this team. I think Marc Bergevin overrated this team, and they're kind of just coming down to earth. And them being, 4th place in the Canadian division, fighting for that final spot, isn't totally unrealistic going into the season. So that's kind of where I'm at.
One thing I wanted to add to that. So Hockey Viz, they have he has heat maps on 5v5 and team heat maps on the power play. I looked at the heat maps earlier, and the one thing that stood out to me when you looked at Montreal was one where the shots are coming from, like HBF said, it's like literally all point shots. They have a plus 10% expected goals per 60 relative to league average. But on the power play, it's really the same thing from like in terms of where shots are coming from, but they're at a minus 23%. And then the same thing goes for their defense. They have a minus 19% at 5v5 and then a plus 21% on the PK. So I thought that was crazy and just represents how awful special teams have been, not only this season, but historically as of late.
Yeah, and like you made that point on the power play, how like shot locations are pretty much the same. I mean, trying to run the same offensive system on the power play as you do at 5-on-5 is not going to get you anywhere. Like teams that struggle with high volume offense at 5-on-5 tend to be able to figure it out on the power play. I mean, that's what Edmonton did last year, and now they're kind of good in all areas offensively this year. But yeah, the special teams needed to be completely reimagined there. I mean, they had the talent to do it, but that's the other thing too. Some of their guys who carried the load at even strength last year are not doing well this year. Namely, Philip Deneau, goalless in 18 games. That is just not good enough at all.
Yeah, he looking at his stats right now, he's got as you said, no goals in 18 games. He's got 8 points, 6 primary assists of 6 assists, or 6 of those 8 points are primary assists, so that's good. And but he's not doing. I mean, analytically, he's fine at even strength, but he's not playing well in the penalty kill. He's at a .1 goals above replacement it's just been not a great season for him so far. And when you watch Montreal, at least from what I've seen, it's been kind of like non-existent. It's just been tough to watch because last year he made an impact, like, and you can really tell he was out there both on the defensive end of the ice and on the offensive side. So it's been rough to watch. Hopefully he can get it all straightened out.
Just as we're talking here, Montreal's up 2-0 against Ottawa. Tatar and Gallagher each have points. Deneau does not. So
there you go.
Just throwing that out
there.
There
it is. Vindication.
Yeah. So we're just prove the point. Again, it's the middle of the game, so Tatar, watch Deneau like break up for a hat trick in the second half. But here we are. So we can move on to another team that's been really surprising in a division that's been fairly surprising in itself, and that's the Florida Panthers. I believe they're still second in the division, but don't quote me on that. I actually didn't check, but they were second yesterday, so I'm assuming that it's still the same. Either way, just a really... Oh, they're first now. There you go. Even better. Just a really weird division, all the way from like Dallas being the worst team in that one to Chicago being in a playoff spot. But Florida's the team that I kind of didn't see coming, and especially in net, because I thought if this team was going to succeed, it was going to be from a bounce back from Bobrovsky. That hasn't been the case. Where are we at on Florida? Like, do we think this is real?
Well,
I'm just going to point out that analytics people knew Chris Driedger was good, or Drieger was good before it was cool.
It's true.
But go ahead, Jack.
well, looking at Barkov, like last year, he had what, .4 wins above replacement, like that. Like he just had down year, and now he's coming back, and I have him like top 5 in my heart rankings right now. Like that's got to be a big factor, and just in general. Like, it doesn't add too much from one player, but in general, when you bring in Carter Verhaeghe and play him on the top line like that, it's got to spark something.
Yeah, and I like the biggest thing I noticed this year. I watched their game against Carolina last night. They lost. It wasn't their most stellar performance of the year, but as someone who watched the Panthers quite a bit last year when they were part of the old Atlantic Division, the biggest thing I'm noticing, and it reflects in the numbers too, is the commitment to team defense. It's been completely reimagined down there. They didn't get a new coach, so I don't really know. Just a bunch of guys got better, simply is the easy explanation for it. But Bill Zito came in, the new GM, and he made some great moves in the offseason. I mean, like Jack mentioned, Barkov, he's having a career year, got to be up for some heart votes at the moment. Verhaeghe has been a revelation. They needed some scoring outside of Barkov and Huberdeau because, I mean, we all sort of knew that Achari and Connolly weren't going to repeat, 20-goal seasons in the bottom 6. So Verhaeghe has been great for them, scoring a lot. Ekblad and Uyghur have been one of the best. I mean, they're top pair. They play top pair minutes, so I don't know if you can call them a shutdown pair, but they've been great defensively. Keith Yandel I don't really know what happened to him. He was a pretty, I guess you could just call him simply a liability at 5-on-5 in past years, more just a power play specialist. And I thought his numbers were going to tank when Hoffman left because that was Florida's entire power play last year. Just win the draw to Yandel, pass to Hoffman. But Yandel's had a great year. Gudas has come in and done well for them, sort of as expected. And I don't know the long-term implications of making Sergei Bobrovsky the backup. I don't know if that's a good thing, but Drieger has been the better goalie, so they're rightfully giving him some time. The guys that are supposed to show up are definitely showing up, and I don't know if they're going to be first in the division by the time it's all said and done, but I would be shocked if they collapsed and missed the playoffs at this point. They could really do something special this year.
Yeah, it's kind of weird how not overpaying for 2 power play specialists can actually help your team. I know how, especially the analytics community, got a lot of hate for the Dadonov and Hoffman slander in the offseason, and neither of which have been particularly great this season. and Florida's used that money to improve their roster as a whole, and clearly it's worked so far. So I'm impressed with the way it's been. I agree. I think they'll probably finish third. I think Tampa and Carolina end up overtaking them, but beside everybody else in that division, I think they're better than at this point.
I'd also like to point out that Radko Gudas has a higher goals above replacement than Alexander Barkov. Just a little interesting stat there.
That's actually wild.
That's good, Jeffrey. One more thing I did find just looking through Yandel, because like his improvement, I mean, he's aging, so this all kind of came out of nowhere. Big thing, his main defense partner last year, can anyone guess who his most common defense partner was? They played 424 minutes together, 5-on-5.
Strawman?
No, sir.
I have no idea.
All right, so it was Josh Brown, and he is now
the classic. The
Ottawa's
best.
Yeah, he's now Ottawa's 7th D. So I think now this year, 155 minutes, most common defense partner for Yandel has been Radko Gudas. So I think bringing him in as a shutdown guy, I mean, Gudas, his defensive numbers weren't great last year, but I think everyone was sort of expecting a bounce back because he had been like elite in that regard in years prior. So I think putting Yandel in a better position to succeed with a guy like Gudas has gone a long way for them, really helped them round out the top four behind those top two, Ekblad and Uyghur.
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, I'm just in shock with how good this team is. I didn't see it coming. And looking at the 5-on-5 numbers for both Hoffman and Dadonov, Dadonov has 7 points, 5-on-5, and Hoffman has 8. So that's what they gave up with those two, and clearly it's worked because, I mean, bringing in guys like Verhaeghe and that have been far more beneficial to their team as of now, and a lot cheaper. So speaking of, I know we touched on the Hart quickly there with Barkov, and he'd definitely be in my conversation. Let's talk about Patrick Kane, because this is a really interesting one. I have been noted as not very high on the Patrick Kane for Hart conversation. I'm assuming all three of you are going to somewhat disagree with that. So this should be fun. I know none of you guys, I don't think, have him like in your top three, but I don't think he's been the most valuable player on Chicago. So I guess we can get into that. You guys can kind of start off, and I can kind of see where you guys are at first, and then go at it.
Well, I think he definitely deserves some sort of recognition in the top 10, I would say, for the Hart. I don't have him top 5 like a lot of other people do, but I definitely do think has been the most valuable player to Chicago.
I'm kind of in the middle with it. I think, he's playing some of like the best offensive hockey of his career so far. He leads the league in even strength offense, goals above replacement. He's playing really well, and the only thing right now weighing him down is his defense, which
hasn't even been that bad.
Yeah, Jack's right. It actually hasn't been that bad. Even if it was at just average, he'd be top 20 in goals above replacement. So, he's playing really well, and his point totals are, they just keep climbing. He scored his 400th, and at the same time, a guy like Kevin Lankinen, he came in and he's killed it. He's saved above expected, and just been. He literally, when he came in, he changed the whole dynamic of Chicago, at least in terms of how the team played in front of him. So I don't know. I think I'm in the middle, but I don't think I'd have DeBrincat in front of him. But I can see an argument for Lankinen at least.
So yeah, like with Kane, it's weird because I don't know. I started to get into the whole analytics side of thing. Probably I'd say almost 2 years ago now, and with each passing month, and with each the more I get into it, the more the more well versed I try to become in all the models and how they work. And that's the thing, because like with respect to the Hart conversation, I mean, one of the things I've been doing this year on my Substack, on my blog page. Go check it out, HBF Analytics at Substack. Just going to casually plug that. One of the things I've been doing is every month I'm doing like an awards post, like who my award winners would be after every 30-day segment of the season. And so I sort of keep tabs on it, check in once a week, maybe who would I have at the top of the awards. And Kane, one thing I read a couple of weeks ago, Jack Hahn, hockey tactician, he's a great follow on Twitter. He released a piece on how models like expected goals, they can underrate guys like Kane who produce a lot and don't drive play very well at the same time. And it really sort of unlocks something like, oh, this is why Kane is able to produce all the time. The thing he said was basically Kane is one of those guys that is able to, like, with a puck on his stick, he's able to just deceive opponents so well, whether he's winding up for a pass or for a shot. And we know how great he is at passing. He's up, I think, top 5 in primary points per 60 this year. The one thing that the models, he said, don't do a great job of accounting for, in which they're still very thorough, and I, use them on a regular basis as a resource, they don't account for events that don't happen. And whereas you have guys like Gallagher and Dougie Hamilton who get credit because they just constantly chuck the puck at the net, and Kane, where like with him, he's a lot more selective, and the thing, and like the shots and passes, like the waste shots and the low danger, like the nothing passes that he decides to avoid and not make for the purpose of generating something higher quality, is something that a lot of the numbers can overlook. So I don't really tend to put as much stock in low play driving numbers for Kane as for other players. And with all that said, he is scoring a lot. Like the puck is going in for him. It always has, but like he's putting together a great year. And I think if it wasn't a shortened season, I think at this rate, he's on pace for one of the best seasons of his career. Like Jack said, off the top of my head, I don't know if I'd have him top 5 for Hart, but definitely top 10, definitely Chicago's most valuable player. I mean, no disrespect to Kevin Lankinen, who is like straight up stolen a few games for them, but Kane has been, he's always been valuable to that team in some way, shape, or form. And this year, he's been a lot more valuable than he was last year. I mean, all the controversy, making a lot of people hate analytics talking about Kane's season last year, but he's having a great year. I don't think he'll stop scoring just because he never has in the past, despite low play driving numbers, and he's going to get some well-deserved votes this year for Hart.
All right, so I guess I'll take the Kevin Lankinen defense position here because you guys are all wrong, and that's okay. That's a joke. It's okay. You can laugh. And here's my big thing with Kane. First of all, before I begin this, I just want to mention that I am staring at my Patrick Kane jersey hanging up on my wall right now. So this is not a anti-Kane slander post. He has been phenomenal this season. He's also one of my favorite players in the NHL. So I'm just
before you continue, Valerian Nichushkin is still better than Patrick Kane.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's no question. But I'm gonna point this out. Patrick Kane last season compared to this one. Now again, it's a 70-game sample compared to a 23-game sample, so you can take that as it is. But we're talking about the Hart. Was .330 better in goals for plus minus last year than this year. He has a 0.1 goals plus minus per 60, and his expected goal numbers were worse last year. So to be fair, he is better in expected goals this year, but his goals for per 60 and his goals for plus minus per 60 were better last season significantly. And if I were to pull up the narrative at the beginning of the season and say, yeah, Patrick Kane's going to have 34 points 23 games into the season, and Chicago's going to be the worst team in their division, you're probably like, yeah, you're probably right, because they're running Colin Delia and Malcolm Subban in net, and Kane's not going to play very much defense. And so far he's been, at least expected goals against wise, although better, their third worst defensive player this season. And if I were to tell you the same thing, like, hey, Kane's going to have 34 points and Chicago's going to be fourth in their division fighting for a playoff spot. You're probably thinking, oh, did they trade for Connor Hellebuyck this offseason? Like, the narrative around Chicago, especially this offseason, was that, their goaltending tandem sucks. They're going to be worse than the Red Wings. And all of a sudden, they get a goaltender who is fourth among goalies to play more than 10 games this year in goals saved above expected and is third in goals above replacement. I think that's had more of an impact on this team winning than Patrick Kane has. Although Kane's been great offensively. His defense still isn't very good. And they're getting phenomenal goaltending. Now, will that last? Probably not. But as of right now, I honestly believe that Kevin Lankinen's been more valuable to the Hawks than Kane has, simply because he's the main thing this team needed to win. And nobody was going to question Kane's offensive impact. And the biggest question about them was goaltending. And he's come in and been one of the, he's in the Vezina conversation right now. And I don't think anybody saw that coming. And I think that's been more valuable to this team. Although Kane's still been really good. I don't think that's unfair.
You mentioned how a lot of people thought they were going to become, or that they were going to finish worse than the Red Wings and, zero hyperbole, be the worst team in the NHL. I think that sort of works out in Kane's case for the Hart and Kane's argument, because one of the reasons people thought that the Hawks were going to be completely awful this year was because we knew that they weren't going to have Jonathan Toews, and Kane has done what he has done this year without Jonathan Toews. So I think, the Hawks were a high-scoring team last year, but one of their best offensive players, completely out of the picture for now. Unfortunately, we don't know when he's going to come back. I'm hoping the guy's okay. He's been one of my favorite players for a while, but the fact that Kane has been producing the way he has and doing the things he has for this team without Toews, with that extra support offensively, it's just it makes it that much more impressive what he's done.
One thing that I thought about while you were mentioning the whole goaltending thing, one for one, goaltenders are completely random, so who even knows? Obviously everybody thought that the goaltending was going to suck, like you said, but, Malcolm Subban could have gone on a tear. Goaltending is just so random that you never really know. But you mentioned not having offensive players, HBF, and I was thinking about that, and who had a really bad year last year was Alex DeBrincat. And his resurgence, at least in my opinion, I would credit it to Patrick Kane because, while DeBrincat did play with Kane last year, he wasn't, at least as far as I know, he played just not very well. And that was probably because of low shooting percentages and just unlucky bounces and everything that happens to goal scorers. But you watch their games this year, and Patrick Kane he just feeds the puck to DeBrincat, and DeBrincat's just putting everything in the net. And he's just, and you watch the Hawks, it's just Hankinen's good, but Kane is he's just on another level. And I hate using just the eye test, but obviously but it's the way he controls the puck and the way he manipulates defenders and the whole deception thing that HBF was also talking about. He's just on another level right now, and it's so fun to watch. And his offense has brought him to a whole new plateau. He's almost at a threshold he hit last season in goals above replacement. He's 0.1 off, even with the minus 1.4 even strength defensive GAR. Same thing with his expected goals above replacement. He's 0.4 off. He's really transcending how he performed last year. And with the selective shot selection that he has, it's just really, really impressive and something that I would consider. That's why I'd consider him first. At least part of the reason why I consider him first.
All right. Yeah. Well, I still think I won this debate, but that's okay. So one of the other things in the news we touched on, obviously Buffalo last week, but the Jack Eichel rumors are really starting to fly around. Namely, the New York Rangers seem to be the team that everybody thinks is going to go to, including, I forget who made the report, but it was reported in The Athletic that it seemed fairly likely that's where he's going to end up. First of all, what do we think a package for Eichel looks like, and where do we think he's going to go?
It's going to have to be a lot. I mean, the classic internet mock trades or Buffalo trades, to say for New York, Buffalo trades Eichel to New York for Apo Kako and a pick or two, like the general armchair GM fleece of the year. But yeah, it's going to be, I mean, very rarely do you get I would argue, elite number one center up on the market like that. If not elite, very, very, I mean, upper echelon center like that. It's very rarely do guys like that come on the market. So, it's going to have to take a lot, and most teams, it's going to have to take a top prospect because I don't think Buffalo's going to trade their franchise center away that easily.
Well, I don't think a single trade for Eichel makes sense in any regard. Like, people are like, well, go to LA and take Byfield. Like, that's not going to work for either team. Like, Byfield has potential to be a top 10 center. And if he goes to Buffalo's development, he's going to get, like, buffaloed. It's just not going to work. Like, trades like that make no sense.
Like, I'm no prospect guy. I tracked like maybe it was 10 or 11 games at the World Juniors manually just as like a off-season project, but to be clear, I really have next to no knowledge on prospects and what their ceilings are and what their potential can be. I think with Eichel this year, the main issue is that the pucks aren't going in, but in fairness, the pucks are not going in at all for Buffalo, for anybody. And I think, if you're management or your ownership, you have to keep the guy happy and you have to keep the guy, somewhat motivated on the ice, because I think it's sort of been swirling around that he would very gladly play somewhere else than Buffalo if it meant a chance to win. And the Sabres are just in a very, very bad way right now. And, with Eichel, I mean, I don't really think he had like a true all-star caliber season until a year ago. And I think that if you are talking about trade packages, it is almost impossible, whether you're like pulling off an armchair GM fleece as a Rangers fan or if this is like actually something that's bound to happen in the offseason, it is extremely hard to lose a trade in which you're getting Jack Eichel. There are not many centers in the league, despite his lack of scoring this year. There are not many centers in the league that are better than him, and I think the majority of the ones that are play for teams that have no interest in trading for him. I mean, far be it for me to underestimate what Team X's first round pick from this past year could be, but I find it really hard to lose a trade involving Eichel. And if it is bound to happen, I mean, word from the guys at The Athletic, I mean, Pierre LeBrun said that if it happens, it won't happen until the offseason. If it was bound to happen, it is worth the risk for the Rangers because, and while this doesn't really, I guess, have any, this doesn't really hold up scientifically, but every player that's gone to Buffalo from another team in recent years has just completely died there in terms of an on-ice standpoint. And I think Eichel could do great things with the Rangers. He'd have a much better supporting cast. And I think teams shouldn't be risk averse if the opportunity to actually trade for this guy presents itself.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, clearly Jack Eichel wants to win, and Buffalo hasn't put him in a position to do that. I mean, their big move this offseason was signing Taylor I Love to Tank Hall, and that clearly hasn't worked out very well. But I think if the Sabres are going to make this move, first of all, they're not going to trade him unless he actually requests the trade, as much as he might be unhappy until he formally goes in and is like, yeah, I'm never going to play for you guys again, they're not going to trade Taylor Hall. Like, he's their franchise player. So as far as I know, that hasn't happened yet, where he's actually went in and been like, yeah, by the way, I'm not playing for you guys next year, trade me. And unless like they get an offer that they absolutely can't refuse, they're not going to trade him unless they have to. And the other thing is, like, does Buffalo really want to go through like another rebuild where they're just getting picks and prospects back? I think if a team's going to make a trade for Eichel, they're going to have to give up like good young roster players. Like, I know teams like the Rangers, I know the Canadians have been involved, the Kings have been a team that's been brought up, and all those teams are going to have to give up good young players that are already in the NHL. And fans aren't going to like that. It's easier for fan bases to get around trading like their second round pick from 3 years ago that hasn't played a game in the NHL yet because they don't really know what he's capable of, over, a guy like a, Kaapo Kakko, which is probably a name that's going to come up, or Nick Suzuki. And where fan bases have already been able to kind of connect with those players. But like you said, I think if you have the opportunity to get Taylor Hall, you go out and do it. And who knows, like, he could get an extra level in a place that can compete, or he might turn into like Alexei Yashin, where he had a really good first couple of seasons and then just turns into like a good top six forward. We don't really know. And I think both possibilities are possible. I think I'd lean towards more Jack Eichel is going to be like an elite top 10 center for most of his career, but again, you might.
And you just know,
Sorry?
like, you just know, by the way, that Hall is gonna totally get the Sabres the number one pick, and they're gonna make it, and there's gonna be renewed hope in the franchise, and then they're gonna go out and finish 7th in the division.
Absolutely! Like the Buffalo Sabres will 100% get the first overall pick this year. That's just what happens when you get Taylor Hall.
Jack Quinn will lead them to the promised land.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, obviously we touched on Buffalo a lot more as a whole last week, but I think there's offers out there. As a hockey fan, I'd love to see him get moved because that's, I think, better for the NHL if an elite star player has a chance to win a Stanley Cup. But obviously Sabres fans won't love it, but it is what it is at this point. The team's a mess.
It's your franchise, Buffalo.
So we asked you guys for some questions, and we can get to those. I think Jack has a whole bunch written down, or Jeff has a whole bunch written down. So,
all right. So
touch on those a little bit.
Yeah, we're gonna start off with the softball here. So this one's from EJF39. Who do you think finishes first in the North? I'm gonna answer that one with Toronto. I'm gonna go easy with that one. What do you guys think?
Yeah, clearly the team that came back from a 5-1 deficit against the Leafs is the superior team. Let's be honest here. No, obviously the Leafs are going to win the North Division. Unless they fall apart, I can't see a reality in which that doesn't happen.
Yeah. All right. So I think. What do you think, Jack? You think the Leafs got it, or do you think Edmonton is coming up, or?
The Leafs got it unless they get the worst goaltending ever, and Matthews is out for the season. Same with Marner and Tavares, all those guys. But other than that, I think they got it locked down.
All right.
Well,
so go ahead, HP.
Yeah, I'm just going to add, I'm a long-suffering Leafs fan, so I would say them, but I'm worried that if I do, they're going to go out and lose their next 8 games, and then Edmonton's going to go win the division, and then the Leafs are going to play the Jets in the first round and get completely Connor Hellebucked.
Probably.
We are in the midst of the Leafs fan base, at its best. They're a very happy bunch, as we saw after the past 2 very great games that they played against Edmonton, but they're still, for the most part, just a giant negativity chamber, and we can talk about them winning the division, and they can make the playoffs in the 4 seed and clinch it on the last day of the season for all I care. I think none of us are really going to believe anything until they get past the first round, because frankly, that matters more than winning the division to all of us at this point. So wake me up in the middle of May, then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and even if the Leafs win the Stanley Cup this year, the season's fake, so it doesn't matter. So
yeah.
Wrong.
All right. So the next question from Prob Justin, otherwise known as Justin Smith. So he
Good
asked,
boy.
what do you think of McAvoy's future, as in potential placement in his prime, etc.?
Norris winning top 5 defenseman in the NHL.
Top 3 defenseman, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with you, George, on this one. I think he'll be top 5. I think he could reach top 3, but I think he'll get a Norris. I mean, he's certainly playing like he could get one this year. He played like he could get one last year.
He should have won last
but-
year.
He's
but
already
that's okay.
top 5 now.
Yeah, he's top 5 right now. I mean, he's playing out of his mind. But he's just so good in every single area of the ice. Like, it's unreal. He's awesome to watch. The Bruins got a good one.
Yeah, and like that's the thing that a lot of people like. I've even seen sometimes like, well, not really. I think Bruins fans. I will give Bruins fans that they know how good their players are and they know which players are really contributing to the team. So I don't really have any disputes with them online over McAvoy. But like that's the thing. People say he could be a top 5 perennial Norris Trophy candidate one day. He's already there. Like he seriously, like. I'm in Canada, so I don't watch the Bruins every day, but Sportsnet decides to show a lot of Bruins games when there are no Canadian teams in action. And watching McAvoy, really, it's like you have Toronto, you have Morgan Riley, who's just a complete, in years past, he's been a complete fire wagon, all offense, no defense. That is pretty exhilarating to watch, but McAvoy is just, it's so fun to watch him do his thing. Like he'll take the puck coast to coast, create some offense. He's been a lot better at creating offense this year than he was last year. I mean, I think part of the mainstream argument against him is that he doesn't produce, but that was because the Bruins didn't really, test him on the power play last year. And to be fair, they've been doing that this year, and the results haven't quite come there. So I don't know. Maybe he won't be a good power play contributor, but he's been a lot better offensively this year, and just as fun as those end-to-end rushes, those sweet breakouts that he can start are like the little defensive highlights. His gap control, his like those stick checks that completely break up plays for the other team. He can really do it all. I mean, I've ever since it sort of became well publicized as the offseason went on. It's like, oh, hey, wait, McAvoy was like really damn good last year. So I've been trying to pay attention to him a lot more whenever I've had the chance to watch the Bruins, and I have not been disappointed.
Yeah, he's been incredible. I mean, there's nothing really else to say about him. So next
We have time for
question
one more
is
here. So, sorry.
from Hockey Realm. Most disappointing player this season?
That's.
I'm gonna go with Zibanejad.
Yeah, I can get behind that.
Praise the Panthers, yeah.
I'm gonna go with. I mean, there are a lot. Like Zibanejad hasn't been good. That could be, COVID effects. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt if that's what it is. I mean, he had it early January. No one really knows. No one can really say for sure unless he or the team confirms it himself if that's what the problem is. Carlson got off to a really rickety start with the Sharks, but I'm going to go with Evgeny Malkin. He was just, I mean, he had a real renaissance season last year. Like one of the things that I was sort of paying attention to from the start of last year all the way through shutdown was, this is vintage Malkin that we're watching. And even like after he got hurt, sort of midway through, he came back and he was just a dominant piece for that team. And while Sid was out long term, he really carried the weight. And I think, Pittsburgh towards the end of last year, they brought in Jason Zucker, and he really hit it off with Crosby. And to be fair, he hasn't been good this year, and now he's hurt. But outside of Zucker, Crosby, Gensel, those core guys, I really thought that Pittsburgh was going to dominate this year. They haven't, and I thought Malkin was going to be a key part of it, but he is just a far cry from his last year self. I mean, I saw there was a game against the Islanders I was watching a couple weeks ago. One of the things that makes Malkin so hard for defenders to face is like when he has a full head of steam on the rush, he is nearly unbeatable despite like not being the fastest guy. And that it helped him create a ton of high danger, high percentage shots last year, and he just doesn't look the same this year at all. He's sort of shooting a lot from the outside. Pittsburgh is getting caved in when he's on the ice. So, most disappointing player. I hate to see it because I liked watching him growing up. I still did as recently as last year, but Gino's my pick.
All right, can I do one more? It's from one of my buddies.
Yeah, sure. Preds. Then we'll get into your game.
Good game. All right, so this one, the last one's from Ian Fuqua. He asked, "Who do you think is the missing factor for the Preds?" And I'm going to say, as a Preds fan, I don't think it's a who. I think it's a what. If I were to pick a person, it would be anybody that's a franchise number one center or an elite number one center. I remember reading something from Dom at The Athletic. I'm not even going to attempt to say his name because I'll definitely butcher it. But he wrote something. He wrote about like what's the integral part of most winning teams, and it was the franchise number one or the number one center, like the true number one center was the key piece, along with obviously a number one defenseman, a great goaltending. In terms of a what, it's any form of consistency, coaching, and the roster is pretty much a fire sale from outside of Forsberg, sort of Duchesne, Yossi, and Ellis, and they're hurt. I mean, Ellis is hurt now, so the Preds. I think the Preds just need to go into tank mode, just embrace it. They're getting killed by the Hurricanes 3-0 right now as I'm saying this. So, just embrace the tank, stock up on draft capital for the next couple years, and just get somebody that can really change the franchise. Because, at some point or another, you have to realize that it's not going to be one thing that is everything. It's not going to be a player. It's not going to be a coaching change. It's not going to be even a GM change. It's got to be multiple things that are going to turn the franchise around.
Yeah, Jack, where are you on that, on Nashville?
I think they're missing in the 2022 draft Brad Lambert or Shane Wright. I think that will, if they can get in the top 3 in that draft, I think that will help them a lot. And just stocking up on picks these next 2 drafts is the most important thing.
Yeah, I haven't been paying a ton of attention to Nashville this year, but I guess I could agree with Jeff. They have not had that number one center for a while, and it's obviously killing them. But I won 2 good moves. I thought they were good at the time on free agency day, which was in October last year, and it was weird. But anyway, on free agency day, they added 2 third pair defensemen, Mark Borowiecki and Matt Benning, and they had both done very well for their respective teams in a depth role a season ago. And I thought, oh, hey, that's going to be pretty good. Nashville's going to get some depth behind Yossi and Ellis. Maybe if they can get some goaltending, maybe they're going to make the playoffs. So I'm pretty sure I had them in a playoff spot in my preseason predictions. And they put Boro and Benning on a pair together, and I love Borokop, but that pair has been one of the worst in the league this year. I was going through some 5-on-5 numbers the other day, and there has been arguably no defense pair that has a worse shot share and quality chance share that when they're on the ice than those 2. And it sucks because you really want. Yossi and Ellis at this point kind of deserve a cup. They almost got it again. They almost got it 5 years ago. But it's unfortunate because I thought that would go a long way towards shoring up their depth, fixing some issues they had back there, and it has completely blown up in their faces.
I love Matt Benning. I'm just going to put that out there. Even though he's not doing very well this season, I absolutely love Matt Benning. He's so good. Ever since the it was the 2016-17 playoffs, the year the Preds made the final, when he blew up Corey Perry. That was, God, I love him. All right, So I'm taking charge of the game today. I call this one Stanley Cup runner-up. It's about obviously it's a little bit self-explanatory. Stanley Cup runner-ups. So I am going to go through. I have 5 years here. I'm going to give you Stanley Cup champion from that year. And I'm going to ask you guys, who was the runner-up? How many games did they lose in? So,
Jesus.
I would just like
Without-
to point out, sorry, Jeff, before you continue, you guys have no idea. At the beginning of lockdown last spring, which I guess was somehow almost a year ago now, the amount of classic hockey games I watched, I know way more than I am proud to admit about past playoff series and whatever, because I just needed some hockey to watch because you couldn't do anything else. So I fingers crossed, like my chances here.
Well, it's finally gonna be useful to you. That's great.
There you go.
Right. So we're gonna start off with a doozy here. All right. So in 1993, the Stanley Cup champions were the Montreal Canadiens. Who did they beat?
What's the order we're going in here?
Oh, all right. All right. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 15.
7.
9.
2.
Answer was 9.
Let's go.
All right. So the Cup champions. I'm gonna repeat this. Stanley Cup champions in 1993 were the Montreal Canadiens. Who was the runner-up?
They beat LA in 5 games.
Yep,
Oh, okay.
that's correct. All
So
right.
this is it, yeah.
Marty McSorley, illegal stick.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty-
I
it's
know
pretty
that
iconic for
because
Canada.
that was the last time that my godforsaken Leafs had the biggest chance, and they lost to those same Kings. So yes, Montreal's last Cup win was rent free in my head. I'm sure that's what all those Habs fans wanted to hear.
All
So
right,
is that?
so-
I guess that's 2 points then, right? Because you got the game right, the series. I don't know how your points total is working, but
We can just go with 1. Yeah, I mean I have 5 questions. So,
okay.
all right. So here we go. We got another good one.
So am I going next then? Because I was next closest.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So 1972,
Oh God.
the Boston Bruins won the Stanley Cup. Who was the runner-up, and how many games?
I'm pretty sure this was this would have been like right at the merger, and I know this team made the final like 6 times in a row. I'm gonna go St. Louis. And
Incorrect.
Okay. I have no
That would have
idea.
been my guess too.
I was
Jack's
riding
right.
St. Louis there, so I don't know. I was
Jack's-
probably in 4 games, but I don't know if I get to guess that.
That's also incorrect.
Oh, great.
Next. All right, Jack, you got a guess?
The North Stars.
HBF, do you have one?
No goddamn idea. I don't. Who was in the West that year? I don't know what. LA.
Oh.
Yeah, it was the first team that came to mind. I figured.
I have no idea.
All right, so the Boston Bruins beat the New York Rangers in
Oh, come
6
on.
games.
Weren't they? Okay, well, I guess clearly they weren't. But
Oh,
I thought,
right.
like, I don't know.
They didn't do it by East and West. They did it by original 6 and expansion. That's
Yeah,
why
but then
I
how
was
does-
thinking West.
Whatever, doesn't matter. I got it wrong.
Oh right, yeah, true. Whatever. Who cares?
Hey, I'm just going off of what Wikipedia
I
told
know.
me,
I know.
all
I
right?
believe you. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just.
Right. So the next one got 1991 Pittsburgh Penguins won the Stanley Cup. This is Jack's turn.
Mhm.
Who was the runner-up and how many games?
Was it the Oilers?
Incorrect. HBF, do you have a guess?
Wasn't that the North Stars?
Yep. How many games?
Oh, I want to say, I know it wasn't 7 because they were showing they were uh, they were showing this game. I remember, one of those days last spring, just this game, one of the games from that series came on, and I forget, what was it, 5?
Correct.
There it is.
That's right.
The runner-up.
Oh, okay.
Want to take a guess, NBA at how many games?
Oh, it wasn't 5?
Oh, it was not 5.
Oh, I don't
Oh,
know.
you cut out when you said incorrect. I just heard it
Correct.
correct.
Oh, my bad.
I don't know. I guess I'll go 6
good.
then.
Yeah, it's 6.
Okay, there you go. I'll take my
Right,
pity like
so-
half point.
Yeah, I'll give you a half point. So HBF has 1.5, NBI has a half, and Jack has none. All right. So second to last one. In 1935, Montreal Maroons. Throwback here. The Montreal Maroons won the Stanley Cup. Who is the runner-up, and how many games?
Why would you even ask this?
Whose guess is it?
Gets HBF's actually.
I'm gonna guess another defunct team because that would make it more fun. Okay, how about the Detroit Cougars, if they even existed?
Cannot confirm if they exist or not. That is incorrect.
Ah,
Oh man, I don't know. I don't even know who's he. I don't even know who was in the league in 35. I'm pretty sure. Well, I know the Canadians are, but I don't think they ever played the Maroons in the Cup final. I'll go Toronto, I guess.
That is correct. How many games? This one is not as many as you would expect.
Oh, okay. Were they still doing like the total goals thing back then? 'Cause I don't like. That'd be really. I'm gonna say 2 then, because they were probably doing the total goals as the type as like the deciding factor back then. So I'm gonna say 2 games.
Correct.
Incorrect. Okay.
wow. Oh, I thought you said. Oh,
Incorrect.
cut out again. Thought you said.
Mike.
correct.
No, I didn't think that was gonna be right.
That would have been a hell of a guess.
Jack, it's your guess.
I'll go
How
with
many
3
games?
games.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. All right. So
Right.
it's 1.5, 1 to 0.5. So we could all win. Still in
Yes.
the final question.
Yes. All right. 1961. Year that was way before my time. The Chicago Blackhawks won the cup. Who was the runner-up? And how many games?
We have a 1 in 5 shot. Good luck.
Whose turn is it?
It's yours.
Cheers, Jack.
It is?
Yes.
Original 16. Was it Detroit?
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
How many games?
Six?
Correct.
No way.
Wow. So our HBF and
Yeah, they're
Jack
tied.
now?
So they need a tiebreaker. I
Alright.
lost. They need a tiebreaker.
All right, so let me just pull this up real quick. Was not expecting that. All right. Okay, here we go. I'll give you guys a little bit of an interesting one. 1937.
Dude,
The Detroit Red Wings won the cup. Who did they beat? And how many games?
I guess it'd be.
I
HV
notice
here.
you're really leaning towards the Great Depression era there, Jeff.
Yeah.
When I said they showed classic games during quarantine, I meant 10 years ago or
Like
20.
after TV was invented.
I don't know. What, Leafs?
Incorrect. Jack.
Hmm. Um, the, the Rangers.
Jack wins.
Holy.
Wow. What a comeback.
Jeez.
All right, there you
Ottawa
go.
Senators.
That's-
Ottawa Senators against the Leafs.
Yeah.
Pulled it
I
off.
know. That's the 5-1 comeback right there. I'm going, just an FYI, I'm going to be expanding on this game just for future reference.
Yeah, no, I like the concept.
Yeah.
I'm a fan. So yeah, I guess we can wrap it up. Where can they find you guys? I guess should make this a little bit more organized. Jeff, you can go first.
All right. So you guys can find me on Instagram at NHL analysis at NHL_analysis_. Just so you guys have that right, and you're not looking up some weird random Instagrammer. I wrote for my Substack. You can find stuff on there. I'm currently writing for Last Word on Sports and the Hockey Writers. I just posted an article today at the time of this recording on Victor Arvidsson, who ironically was the main reason that the Predators gave up a goal tonight. So you can find me there. You can also find me on Twitter at JJMid04. I just post random Predator stuff on there. So, yeah, where you guys can find me.
Jack?
Okay. You know how I like to keep it short and sweet, so you can just find me at Puck Analytics on Instagram.
Yeah, very right. And you guys can find me at NBA Hockey on Instagram and Twitter. And finally, HB, anything you want to plug?
Yep, you can find me on Twitter at HBF Analytics. I write blog posts for my Substack page at hbanalytics.substack.com, and you can find my NHL and the odd baseball or football chart on my public Tableau page, also HBF Analytics. Thanks, fellas, for having me on today.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And
It was a pleasure.
It's good. It was a pleasure having you. And
Yeah.
thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys next week.